Jaquan Brisker has started recruiting Micah Parsons to the Chicago Bears. Will he be successful? And will the Chicago Bears even realistically look to trade for the talented defensive player? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, we're going to look at Ben Johnson's impact on the Chicago Bears draft, assumedly. And we're going to look at key dates and the official draft order now that it's set after the NFL, after the Super Bowl. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go to get into this content for today, y'all. Jaquan Brisker Jaquan Brisker, shout out to Jaquan, right? More than anything, I hope that Jaquan Brisker does have a really successful and injury-free season, right? That's the thing that we want. It's health for Jaquan Brisker heading into the 2025 season. We just want to see Jaquan Brisker be able to stay on the football field because we understand the impact that Jaquan Brisker can have when he's on the football field. We understand the leadership role that he was developing into on that defensive side of the ball. And we're going to need that. Under Dennis Allen now as the defensive coordinator, all that's important for when it comes down to it. But Jaquan Brisker is shooting his shot. He is trying to recruit Micah Parsons with one single tweet saying this: "We'll welcome 11 with open arms," and then the eye emoji and reunion. Now, the Bears have been in a lot of talk around the league, rumors, I should say, writers around the league on their ability to pursue some of these guys, right? Cooper Kupp's names come up, Myles Garrett's names come up, of course, when it comes down to it. But when you look at those were really just rumors, right? And it was all things that really weren't going to happen and go down. I don't think the Bears are ever going to give up what Myles Garrett could get. Reportedly, the Detroit Lions are really ready to put a huge upper offer for Myles Garrett. Cooper Kupp, that's kind of been debunked as well, that's not really going to have a chance of happening. And I've given my thoughts on those very consistently, right? I didn't think that the Bears were in a position to try to recruit either one of those guys at all when it came down to it. Brad Biggs also, when it came to Cooper Kupp, said this: "We're not going to play fantasy football superstar here for the third wide receiver. That's not going to be what they're going to do." Not that Brad Biggs knows everything, but usually when when he reports on something, you can take it for what it is, right? Now, with that as well, outside of that, there have also been some talk. This actually comes from Tom Pellerissio and Ian Rappaport, that says this: that the Dallas Cowboys have held some internal conversations about trading Micah Parsons. Now, the Bears have been a team that's been rumored around Micah Parsons before, right, when it comes down to it. And now Jaquan Brisker doing that, I don't think that gives any extra credence to the chance that it could happen. But you look at the contract essentials with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb on top of all of that, there is a point that, as of right now, that the Cowboys could reach a realistic place in which they do look to move on for Micah Parsons. Parsons is due for a new contract, much like with Montez Sweat due for a new contract, right? So there is some thoughts when it came down to it, considering the money that was given out to some of those teams and the change around the Cowboys, that it could be there, right? So there is a chance that Parsons is moved this offseason, right? It does not seem, I don't think that the Bears are going to get involved for it. Yeah, Micah Parsons in his 12 sacks, his 30 solo tackles, his 2 forced fumbles, those are all be great. He's also 25 years old, 6'3", 245 pounds. And I don't mean to spoil or shit on anybody's hopes and dreams for the Chicago Bears team, but much like Brad Biggs said, this team is not playing fantasy football to add name star to all of a sudden take this team over the top. They're going to be very intentional about who they bring in. And they have so many positions that could end up costing a lot of money to bring in. I just don't see it happening. It'll be different if Micah Parsons was a free agent, maybe if they can address some things, but trading for Micah Parsons is going to take some serious assets. It's not like you could just trade for him. I know some sports fans seem to think when somebody's being made available on the market, that all of a sudden means that they're made available for less than their value. And that's not, unless it's the Chicago Bulls who are trading stars. Most teams don't come down off their value for players that still hold a lot, especially for a player as young as Micah Parsons. He still has the majority of his NFL career ahead of him. So I don't see that the Bears getting involved for the price tag that is going to take with the current state of the team to get involved for Micah Parsons. Again, much like I said with Myles Garrett and others, I would love it. But I do think I think the Bears are going to add another edge. Make no mistake about it. I really do think that. But I think when they do, if it's a veteran edge, they're going to do that at more of a cost-effective contract than trading and having to take cap space and draft assets, right? So that's what it comes down to, right? Is that even if the Bears do spend similar money out for a veteran, which I don't think they'll do, you're still at a net positive with that because you're not also giving up draft assets to get that guy in the building. And I think that's where the Bears sit at right now, is just in that evaluation period. They do not have what's needed to give up to get some of these guys in. It's just not realistic. I would love to be able to say that we are, but I don't think that that's going to be the case. I just don't. I don't think that that's going to be the case. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see what's going to happen when that all comes down to it. But with that said, the Super Bowl, as everybody knows, went down yesterday. The Philadelphia Eagles get their Super Bowl. Shout out to them and that team. I can't wait till it's us. But with that said, we can now start looking at some of the important dates in the offseason. And so the draft combine, the scouting combine is right around the corner. February 27th through March 2nd is when that scouting combine is. So you're looking at a little over 2 weeks until we're going to get a lot more news on what's going on with that. The Bears hold the number 10 overall pick. So we know that that's going to be the case as well in that, since the draft order is set, right? That's the important thing. The Bears pick at number 10, so we don't have to worry about that. We kind of already knew that was going to be the case. Really wasn't any chance of that changing for us. Top 10 is Titans, Browns, Giants, Patriots, Jacksonville, Las Vegas Raiders, New York Jets, Carolina Panthers, the Saints, and then the Chicago Bears sitting right there. The 49ers sit a little bit behind them. So that draft combine, February 27th to March 2nd. Be on the lookout for how the news shakes out there and who the Bears are looking at, maybe interviewing, things like that. March 4th is the franchise transition tag. Now, this may be an important date for the Chicago Bears because that may be where something has to happen with Trey Smith, right? Not to say that the Bears are necessarily going to pony up the money to sign a Trey Smith. We'll see what happens with that. But I do think that that's an important day to look, not only for some on the Bears. I don't really know if the Bears have anybody that I think they're going to franchise or transition tag, but I could be incorrect on that. But definitely look at what happens with Trey Smith there is going to be really important as well, I think, to what the Bears may pursue early in there. Then, of course, we get into free agency. March 10th through the 12th is for when free agency starts. There's a two-day negotiating period that officially starts there and officially opens on March 12th. That's when people can start officially signing contracts, right? The Bears are expected to have the fifth most in the NFL as far as cap space, so we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. Actually, it seems like that now has gone up to $80.14 million. So initially it was thought to be $69 million. So that's when things start. That's basically exactly a month away. We are exactly a month away from free agency opening. And then a lot of these kind of questions that we have on who the Bears can or will pursue, maybe that starts getting answered there, right? March 12th, as well as when the trading period does start as well. That's when you can start trading. The Bears could look, if they trade up, trade down, probably going to more so be a draft day thing, but keep on the lookout for that. If the Bears do any trades, March 2nd is when that happens. And then April 7th is when the offseason program officially begins. So we're about 2 months away from that officially opening up for the Chicago Bears. And that's going to be a thing. That's when Hallis Hall will open. That's when workout programs and things will begin. Any new acquisitions, they'll be there. Caleb Williams may start working with his wide receivers again. Those type of things are going to be there. And this is an important one for the Bears, especially considering that you got a whole new coaching staff, new sensibilities coming in here. So that's a really important thing for this Bears team, I think, this year. And then, of course, April 24th through the 26th, that is the NFL draft. So we're about 2.5 months away from the NFL draft. I personally cannot wait. I think this is a very important draft for the Chicago Bears. You look at the holes that we have on the offensive line. 3 picks in the top 41, which is really big for the Bears. Do not get surprised if the Bears do make a move at some of those picks to acquire more, right? I think that's a really important thing for this Bears team as well. The Bears are about to get to work. And this is the part where Ryan Poles really starts getting creative when we start seeing what his plan is for this team is during the NFL draft. And then, of course, May 2nd through the 5th and May 9th through the 2nd. That's the rookie minicamp, which is important as well for, any new players that we draft in here. So it's going to be the offseason is going to start flying by, especially once you get to the draft combine. Things really start going fast at that point. By the time you make it to free agency opening, that 2-day negotiating window period, things really start getting even crazier at that point in time. So we're in store for hopefully a fun offseason where progress is made, of course, for the Chicago Bears, and we'll see what's going to happen here. But the question that a lot of people have is, what is the impact that Ben Johnson is going to have on this draft? Of course, Ben Johnson comes from Detroit. He understands the reason why you want to have a solid offensive line, but make no mistake about it. If the Bears are to do something crazy with the running back at number 10, like draft Ashton Jeanty, a lot of that is going to be because of also Ben Johnson and his offensive sensibilities as well. We've seen Caleb Williams taking a picture with Jeanty. We've seen Jeanty mention the Chicago Bears as well. Doesn't mean that anything necessarily is going to happen there, but it does mean keep your eyes out in case something does happen, I think, right? I think that's a big part in it as well. If the Bears were to, and this is something, of course, if the Bears get somebody like a Trey Smith, a Will Fries, a Drew Dahlman, in free agency, it does free them up to do something more creative with their number 10 pick. But it would be a gamble for the Chicago Bears to go and use that number 10 pick on a running back when we know and we think offensive line is going to be the focus. But it would not be the first time that Ryan Poles does something like that, right? We look at his first draft. Many people thought wide receiver was going to be what we focused on. We didn't draft a wide receiver until our third pick in that draft, right? With Velus Jones, and we saw how that worked out. So we'll see what ends up happening when it comes down to it. But I think you also got to look forward as well, Dennis Allen, right? What's the impact that both Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson have on this draft? Because we know they're going to be looking for some other defensive linemen in this. They could also look for a new safety as well, right? So I still think that the Bears are probably going to keep the number 10 pick personally, but I won't know for sure, of course, well, until it happens, but won't have a better idea for it until we see what's done in free agency. Because I think if you do spend a lot of money and bring in one or two key veteran signings on that offensive line in free agency, if you do that, I do think the Bears can do something crazy at number 10 that catches some Bears fans off guards. Does it end up being a running back? Does it end up being a different position, a defensive end? We'll see. But I think everything is up for grabs at number 10, right? So I want to hear from you guys on this. What do you think the most likely thing is at number 10? Do they keep it, right? Do they draft an offensive lineman and keep it? Do they draft a running back? Do they draft a defensive end? Let me know that. If you say keep it, let me know what position do you think they go for. Do they trade it, right? Do they trade back, get some additional compensation for it, and do that in that? Where's your mindset right now, and what do you think the Bears are going to do at number 10 in the 2025 NFL Draft? Let me know all that down below. Now, with that said, on Monday, we usually dip a little bit into the mailbag, especially. We got one voicemail that I want to get into. This one's from Keys.
Yo, what's up, man? It's your boy Keys on this lovely Sunday. Just wanted to drop a few things and let y'all think on this, man. Bears fans, that's the first step I want to go. I think we got some of the most delusional, realistic, but yet out-of-the-box fans in the world, right? Now, you see, and it's been a trend that's happened over the years, where we've had quarterbacks who wasn't short on talent, with exception, I think, of maybe Mitch Trubisky. But even when Mitch was in there, he was cool, but that's besides the point. You've seen it where we've had quarterbacks that have been very, very pretty good talent. And yet, instead of, y'all say we need to protect these guys, y'all want to go get that shiny new toy. If you look at the franchises that have been stable and put things around their quarterback, 9 times out of 10, they've made the playoffs. For instance, let's look at the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers was complaining about not having enough talent, but they found Devontae Adams in the second round and always drafted pretty good linemen that would help. So we need to get our heads out of our ass a little bit. And I understand Ashton Jeanty is a really good talent, and I'm not taking none of that away. But we need to protect Caleb Williams. And we need to get after the other team's quarterback, okay? Number 2, I'm looking at this free agency stuff, and I really think it's apparent that we focus morely on our interior O-line. And with those top 3 picks that we got, if everybody, we've been through this notion over and over again. If Banks and Campbell ain't there, bro, trade back. Like, don't be stupid. Please don't be stupid. Get a guy that can help block and then add another piece that, can work. And then my last thought is, currently as the draft stands with us, with the Bears, right, through the 7 rounds, we have 8 picks. I think if we could trade back and accumulate another pick, that'll put us at 9, right? We need 3 offensive linemen, at least 2 defensive linemen. I'm even going to say maybe 2 more running backs, a wide receiver and a tight end and another safety. So, Hayes, let me know what you think. Chi-Town up, bear down.
Listen, man, I agree with you a lot, right? I agree with you in the sense that it's always that look for that shiny new thing, right? When sometimes just taking care of the business that's in front of you is the most important thing. Just get it done, right? Now, as far as just trading back, if those 2 players aren't available, I won't necessarily say that because it depends on what you do in free agency. It also depends on what you've done to address things at that point, right? And I can see a world in which going for a talent like Genty does make some sense, depending on, again, what do you do elsewhere? That is the biggest thing here. The Bears have now 80 some million dollars in salary, the 5th most in the NFL, right? So if you go out there and you spend on some young veteran, like Trey Smith is a young guy, right? You spend that on him, Will Fries, the other guys that I mentioned. Okay, I can see a world in which you're like, all right, we're going to go defensive end or we're going to go running back here, right? But I think the world in trading back is also that we've seen Ryan Poles do things like that before, is trade back. You have to build this out, right? You can't keep going after the shiny new thing. You got to invest in your quarterback. You got to invest in the talent that you have here. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. That is what hopefully bringing Ben Johnson into this was meant to do, right? Was meant to bring in a player, a coach that you can pair with your quarterback that can grow and develop over time. And then we can stop doing this musical chairs of quarterbacks in and out and in and out and all this type of thing that we've done. That's the goal in this, right? Now, throughout the goal as well, you also have a goal to build the best team possible. You also have a goal of going out there and adding the best talent possible, especially for your coach that wants a bunch of weapons on offense, but he also is going to want that offensive line. So I'm not coming into this situation saying that, oh, if these players aren't here, if you're not drafting an offensive lineman with the first overall pick, you must trade back. It depends on who falls there, right? There are some guys that could fall there at number 10 that just talent-wise, you almost is going to be very hard to pass up. But here's what I'll say in that. If that's what you do, if that's what you're doing is going out, and then you have to be prepared and plan for that by the way that you address your free agency, by the way you add depth to this team, by the way you bring in talent to this team. So it goes to those things. You just got to be smart. And that's overall don't get too cute. Don't think too much. Don't try to be too much ahead of what's being done there. Just do the right things. Build this team in the way that we've seen teams be successful in building teams for decades. Things have worked for teams for so long. It's worked in the NFL for so long for a reason. Now, I'm not saying like what the Bears have done is just rest on their laurels. That's not what I'm saying in this case, and by any stretch of the imagination. But I am saying that the way that you go about it and address things, sometimes it just makes sense, right? Certain things just make sense. So, yeah, there's a lot of talent in this draft. But one thing that's said as well by a lot of draft experts, I'm not a draft expert. I can read some tea leaves. I can look at some stats. I can watch some tape, right? But why a lot of the draft experts, though, is the fact that this talent separation between most of the linemen that are going to go in the first round and the second round isn't that much. Now, I would say this as well, though. The Bears can't get caught on the wrong side of history. They're not yet again, right? But I think that goes into a large part of the evaluation as well. How do you evaluate the talent in these offensive linemen, right? Who's the guys that you feel are can't-miss prospects for that offensive line, right? That's what you got to look at. Interior tackles. We need it all just about, right? Especially with Tevin Jenkins elite. Probably his time here is done, right? So there's some talented guys in here, but I won't necessarily say just coming into it blindly, oh, well, you got to trade out of the top 10 if these 2 guys aren't available. I won't say that. Now, I can understand if they do. I'm not saying that it's wrong to do that either. Pick up some assets, get some guys in here, keep adding, get some extra times because there's some talented running backs that are going to go later as well, right? So there's all of that. But that's what it's up to for Ryan Poles to try to figure out. That's what's up for Ryan Poles as the GM and the guy leading this in his combination with his conversations with the coaching staff and his own sensibilities to try to figure out. And I just want to say at the end of that, right, when we take the field next season, that offensive line better goddamn well be together. The last thing I want to see is another shiny new toy, another shiny new prospect on the offensive side of the ball. And when it's all said and done, we ain't got no protection. We ain't got nobody to open up lanes for the running backs. We ain't got nobody to block for Caleb Williams. We ain't got nobody to do anything, right? That's not what I want to see. That's what we saw last year. So don't make the same mistakes. If you're going to go a skill position, right, with your first overall, with your first round pick, right? If that's what you're going to do, make sure that you make the right decisions in free agency to make sure that you shore up this offensive line. And then cool, you add 2 young offensive linemen in the second round that have great potential. It's cool. They're there aren't a whole lot of blue chippers as far as offensive linemen. There's some damn good ones, but not a whole lot by the draft experts as far as blue chippers, right? Not to say that ends up, some blue chippers end up not being good, and some of the guys that are looked at as being decent end up having a better, more sustained career. But that's up for Ryan Poles to figure out. That's not up for me. That's not up for you to figure out. And I just want this team, when it's all said and done, when you take the field next season, just let it be right. Let this shit finally be right, and we can finally have a team that makes some goddamn sense. At least that's my thought process. You guys can let me know how you feel as always down below. Make sure you're following us at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.